story is called The Mitten Tree by Candace Christensen. That's the author. She wrote the story, and it's illustrated by Elaine Greenstein, who drew all the pictures here. And as you see in the picture, she's holding a snowball. But let's find out why it's called the Mitten Tree, because I've never seen mittens on a tree before. At the end of a long lane in a tiny little house, old Sarah lived alone. Her children had grown up and moved away. But Sarah still remembered the mornings when she walked with them to the blue spruce tree where they waited for the school bus. Now each morning she opened her shutters and watched for the children to arrive. There she is in the window there. So she's waiting for all the children. Every chilly morning, Sarah pulled on her warm coat and started down the lane. As she walked past the children on her way to the mailbox, she wished they would smile or wave, but they never did. The children didn't even seem to notice her. Still, when she saw them, she couldn't help but smile. So she's kind of lonely and sad. She wished the children would say hi to her in the mornings. One winter morning after the first snow had fallen, all the children were making snowmen and throwing snowballs, all except for one little boy in a blue cap and coat. Even his boots were a dark shade of blue. He stood away from the others with his hands sunk deep in his pockets. When the school bus arrived, he lingered behind and was last in line. As Sarah watched the little boy climb into the bus, she could see only one thing. He had no mittens. And it's really hard to be able to play in the snow and be outside in the cold with no mittens. All that day, Sarah couldn't stop worrying about the little boy with no mittens. Late in the afternoon, as the sky drew dark, Sarah dug through the basket of yarn scraps she had saved for many years. She found her needles and 4 shades of blue wool. Then Sarah began to knit. So it sounds like she's knitting blue mittens. And we've been learning about grandmas who make mittens for little boys and girls. We read 2 stories called The Mitten about knitting mittens, and then she's knitting mittens for the children who don't have any. Sarah worked late into the night, and when the sun began to rise, she hurried to the bus stop and hung the mittens on the old blue spruce tree. From behind the hedge, Sarah watched. The little boy was the first to arrive. He saw the mittens. He reached up and tried them on. They fit. With a big smile, he made a perfect snowball and threw it high into the winter sky. So he's got a smile on his face. He's happy now because he has new mittens and he's able to pick up snowballs and throw them before he goes on the school bus. Soon a little girl in a red coat arrived. Her mittens didn't match. That night, Sarah knitted with red yarn. Every day now, as Sarah went to the mailbox, she watched for children without mittens. Then she would hurry home and knit. Early in the morning, she would hang the new mittens on the tree. And the children loved the game. They were so excited to be able to go to the tree every day, every morning, and find mittens. Once or twice, Sarah thought that the boy with the blue mittens had seen her, but he always looked away. Night after night, Sarah knitted mittens in every color. Some had stripes, some had hearts, some even had little snowflakes all over them. Somehow, even though she had never spoken to the children, Sarah felt that they had become her new family. So it was something for her to do and make her happy, make mittens for all the children, and the children very appreciated it. On the last day before winter vacation, Sarah awakened before dawn, and she took the empty basket that had once held her yarn and filled it to the brim, which means the top, with mittens. Out the door and down the steps she headed. When she got to the blue spruce tree, she hung mittens on every branch. The boy with the blue mittens was the first to arrive. He stood very still and waited for the others. In fact, all the children stood very still for a few minutes looking at the mysterious, beautiful mitten tree because they have no idea how the mittens got there. But look, somebody's hiding in the bush. She wanted to see all the kids get the mittens. When they boarded the bus, each child now wore a pair of mittens. Sarah watched as one by one their faces appeared in the bus windows. Still, no one looked at her as she started home. But Sarah's heart was full. It was full as when the sounds of her own children had filled the house. As Sarah neared the porch and climbed the steps, she saw something waiting for her. There in the corner was a basket woven with thick brown vines and decorated with a large white bow. In it were balls and balls of beautiful yarn. Look, she has her hands on her face. She's so excited. So they gave her yarn because they knew she was the one that made the mittens. To this day, Sarah knits mittens for all the children in her town. Every time her basket is empty, a full one appears, and she doesn't know who drops the yarn off. Sarah doesn't know who the yarn is from. The children still don't know who the mittens are from, but someone must be. And that's how you make the mittens with the 2 needles.